Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. So from time to time, we all find ourselves feeling a bit discombobulated. Now, if you've ever been to the the Mitchell International Airport in Wisconsin, we have a discombobulation station. So us here in Wisconsin, we know a little bit about being discombobulated. But we really don't know what triggered this feeling unless you're at the airport and it's because we had to take off our shoes, we had to take everything out of our bags, and we had to get through. But it's okay to feel this way. Really, it is. We can't be superwomen every day. This is just what life is. There will be off days as well as perfect days. What we must understand is that it is okay not to feel happy and jovial all the time, as long as we don't allow this feeling to linger too long, much like my dog right now, who's not happy with me because I'm hiding treats. But today, my guest, Dee Burrell, and I will discuss letting go, overcoming obstacles, starting over with a new beginning, and believing in yourself. But I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Dee. Dee Burrell is a powerhouse with a sharp wit, a commanding presence that captivates, and a wardrobe that has literally made her one of the best dressed women in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Dee is a breast cancer survivor, who supports other women who have also been diagnosed. Through her motivational workshops, speaking engagements, and media appearances. She advocates for women's health, traveling worldwide to empower women with a message that focuses on renewing mind, body, and soul. And I bless her for that. She is the author of the book, Open Up the Door and Let Me In, and the co-author of Living Your Vision and Purpose. Dee lives in Waldorf, Maryland, and is currently working on building Dee Burrell Consulting, a coaching firm she created that aligns with another personal mission of hers, helping others, especially young people, making a winning first impression that will bring them lifelong benefits in both their personal and professional lives. With all that being said, please help me welcome Dee to the show today. Welcome, Dee.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you for having me on your show today.
So tell listeners, how did you get started in all this?
Erica, I believe it all started when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I grew up in a small town on the Eastern Shore, and the small town is called Fruitland, Maryland, outside of Ocean City. Most people know about Ocean City, Maryland. I grew up, I was raised by a single mother of 6, and I learned a lot about strength and courage from my mom. As time went on, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, had been in perfect health, and I was diagnosed at the age of 50, a very aggressive form of breast cancer. And that changed my world. It changed my life forever.
I can truly relate. I was also 50 when I was diagnosed, and with a very aggressive, and it turns your world upside down. It's like a natural disaster that comes into your life that just wants to upheave and really pull you from your roots. And I think that changes you as a person, but I think it can also change you very much for the better. And yes, that's what I'd like to start the first segment out about when we're talking about letting go, right? Letting go of those things that no longer serve you. So why is it important to let go?
It's important to let go because it allows you freedom. You know, when you're holding on to something that is no longer serving a purpose, a positive purpose, whether it be people in your lives or whether it's a job, letting go gives you the freedom so you can move forward. And I can tell you, letting go has been probably one of the hardest things for me because it's not easy to let go. We are so used to other people and what people feel about you. But in my case, having battled breast cancer, something that was so aggressive, I had to learn to let go of things that were honestly, they were holding me back. And by doing that, it gave me freedom, freedom to really get to know who I am. Because a lot of times we're holding on to things or to people that are not supportive or not there for you. And it causes a lot of mental anguish. And it does take years sometimes to let go of that. But once you let go of it, then you begin to learn about you. You get to know yourself all over again.
Yes. I think that's good. It's sitting with those feelings, right? It's
Yes.
it's letting go because, as you said, it holds you back. You can't move forward if you're tied to the past and
Yeah.
you're tied to. And I know for me, I think you mentioned this was when you're holding on to a person you used to be, from either relationships, addiction, health issues, mistakes that you've made in your past, you're holding on to something that's no longer there. And you're trying to maybe recreate that where maybe it was put in your way for a purpose. So letting go and making sure you have that freedom to move forward. Otherwise, if you don't, can it bring you down? If not letting go bring you down?
It can, and it can create a lot of mental anguish. And sometimes it's a lot of pain that is built up inside of you. And you may not even realize that some of the pain that you're going through is simply a part of us not letting go.
Yes.
It's important to let go of the past. The past is over. Yesterday is gone. Today is a new day. And as long as we can look back and realize we're doing the best that we can, we're giving our best, but at the same time, we're learning from our mistakes. And that is something that's important. We have to realize that, yes, we have made mistakes in life. I'm sure many of us say, oh, wow, I wish I was so much further in life than where I am. But I believe that if we can realize that some of those things happen for a reason, and we didn't understand what those reasons were in the past. But when we can learn from the mistakes, the failures, the mistreatment, loving more than what you're getting back, all of these things plays a big part in letting go and with your mentality.
Yes. I mean, and I think it's important because you're going to make mistakes, right? If we
Yes, absolutely.
assume that you're not going to make mistakes, you'll probably make more. But but also you take those mistakes and use them as stepping stones, right? And I don't think not achieving something is a bad thing if you've learned. And I'm going to get this quote wrong, but it's what was it about creating the light bulb? He found 10,000 different ways to create it, to not create it. You only needed to find one to create. And I think that's really important. If you learn, you can learn what not to do, and then you can make yourself better. If you see those failures and those mistakes as opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about overcoming obstacles, but take that obstacle, the O from obstacle, into an O for opportunity, right? Making sure that you are getting what you need and learning, because I think if we always win, right? If we're always doing something perfectly or always achieving everything on the first try. We get into that fixed mindset. We don't do a growth mindset. And I think we need to have that. And it also makes us better leaders when we can do that. Leaders in our lives, in our children's lives, in the community's lives, to make sure that we do have that opportunity.
Very true.
And I think you kind of hit it. It's mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
We are all interconnected. If we are having a hard time sleeping, it could be something to do with our physical health, our mental health, our financial health. What are those stresses? And if we continue to hold on and not let go, we cause more mental anguish, as you said, which then can turn to physical problems, and all those add up. And so letting go is so important.
Yes, it is. Very important.
Why it's one of the words of my tagline, right? Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. You have to let it go. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about overcoming obstacles. But before we go, Dee, tell folks how they can reach you.
At the present time, I'm working on my new website for Dee Burrell Consulting. You can actually Google Dee Burrell Consulting, and the website is in progress. My personal email is Dee Burrell, that's DeeBurrell 123 @gmail.com. And my personal mobile number is 215-913-7684.
Thank you. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Dee Burrell. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be here with you today.
So during the last segment, we talked about letting go, right? And how that is so important. And sometimes holding on does more damage than letting go does. But during this segment, we will get into overcoming obstacles. And as I mentioned before, it's taking that from obstacles and turning it into O for opportunity. But why don't we just start it right off, Dee, with, is this for overcoming obstacles? When we look at it, is it something that is our own internal problem? Is it something that I have control of? Or what should we do?
Erica, in some instances, the opportunity to overcome obstacles can be something that we have control over, but there's also times that we don't have control over some of the obstacles that we deal with. I think it's so important to just take some downtime. In our last segment, we talked about letting go. When we decide to let go, this is when we start focusing on what are our obstacles? What's holding us back? What is it that I can do better? What should I stop doing to do better? And many times it is out of our control. We simply have to take time and just honestly figure it out.
I think that's important is that we can't control everything. For as much of us, maybe a little bit of us are control freaks. I'm not raising my hand or anything, but we can't control everything, but we can control our reaction and our response. So I think, as you said, making it understood that taking a step back, taking that break, looking at it and saying, is this a self-inflicted wound? Or is this something that I can't control, but let me see what I can do to move forward? So with that, what can you do to move forward?
One of the things that I have done that has been so extremely helpful for me is journaling. I have been journaling for over 30 years, and it is a good feeling for me to pull out a journal from 5 years ago and look at where I was 5 years ago and where I am today. And that has honestly helped me to overcome some of the obstacles. And as I continue to go back and read those things that may have caused pain or, suffering, I can see that some of them was for me. And some of the things that happened to me were simply out of my control. And it's all tied in with a mindset. We have to look back and just say, well, that didn't work, or I overcame this obstacle and I feel good about it. But it's all in, honestly, looking at ourselves in the mirror and being honest with ourselves. It starts there, Erica.
Yeah. I think that is probably one of the hardest things to do sometimes is have that self-awareness and self-reflection and truly being honest with yourself. Don't try to pull the wool over your own eyes, right? Is making sure that you can answer some of these questions, because there are times where we want to maybe blame others because it's easier to blame somebody else for the problem than to take accountability. But when we take accountability for something that is self-inflicted, and I want to make sure that folks understand, sometimes you make mistakes and it's self-inflicted because you didn't know any better, but that's a mistake. But then if you continue that same mistake over and over, well, now you got nobody else to blame, right? It's
true.
the knowledge, is using that knowledge to then learn from your mistake or your failure. But acknowledging that can be very hard because we like to think that we are, I don't want to say perfect, because I think that nobody truly thinks they're perfect, but that we are better than we are sometimes. And we're human.
Mm-hmm.
We do human things. We do dumb things. We do crazy things. We do things because we don't know any better at the time. And I think that when we can have that true self-awareness and sit with the feelings, feel them, then overcome them, right? Then just don't unpack and stay there, because that's where we can then start that moving forward.
Yes, and that's the word unpacking. That is so important because, again, many of us have held on to some things for years and years and years. And we stay in the same frame of mind. But once you let go, as we talked about in our other segment, and then you realize what the obstacles are, then you get to ask yourself questions such as, could I have done this better? Is there anything that I could have done to prevent this? Is it me or is it someone else? These are questions that we have to ponder over as we consider the obstacles that we're trying to overcome.
I think that's a great point. It is going back, because sometimes we don't know what we did wrong. We had this plan. We maybe met with a mentor, met with a coach, and we had this plan, right? And we thought we were doing the right steps, and then something still happened. And I think until you, in the corporate world, we say let's do a debrief. Let's go back and look to see where did things not go right. I think a lot of times in our life we have to look at that. Where did something not go right? And understanding that there might be a detour, right? There might be a way that we have to take a detour. It's not always a straight line, but sometimes those detours, we learn so much more about ourselves, about the world around us, about the process, whatever we're doing, and things turn out better and more beautiful because we took a little bit of a scenic route. And I think that's important to acknowledge that, things are laid in front of us and given us opportunities that we wouldn't have necessarily taken.
That's
but
right.
We have to take that risk sometimes, or we have to make that turn, even if we don't know where we're going. We sometimes just have to take that turn and let it guide us.
Absolutely.
So what else about overcoming obstacles should our listeners know about?
That it's important to understand that life is not always easy. No matter
Yes.
how much we want to have an excellent, perfect day, things can go wrong. And we have to also learn to stop beating ourselves up. Sometimes we do that and we feel that it's me, it's me, it's me. And sometimes it really isn't you. It's just a matter of, like we say, looking back, just looking at your life. And when you can overcome an obstacle, for example, for me, I was able to let go of something that was causing so much pain for years. And once I was able to overcome that obstacle, I could actually see a lot of good in me that other people could see, but I didn't see it. And that's an example of, again, you're letting go of things. You're letting go of some of the obstacles that are standing in your way. It's like a hurdle or climbing steps. You know, you might run up 4 steps and then you're tired, don't want to go any further. But I suggest take that moment, take that breather, and then keep on climbing those steps, keep on climbing that ladder, because you will get to where you want to be. It's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of me time. It's okay to close yourself up. There have been weekends that I have actually shut myself inside the home, no TV, and just let my mind be free so I can understand what is going on, what is triggering what I'm going through. And a lot of people feel uncomfortable doing that. You have to have some alone time. You must do that.
I think that's like it, because that does allow for the self-reflection, right? To be able to sit with those thoughts and sit with looking back and seeing where, and again, I know I said earlier, you got to let go of the past, but you do have to look at it to see, where do I go, right?
Yes.
Where do I go next? And it is that, as you said, carrying on and not letting go. Or if you hit an obstacle, picking that obstacle up and carrying it with you, that gets heavy. And it weighs you down and it doesn't allow you to go forward. And that's where, you know, and you said beating yourself up. And it's really important for folks to understand that. I always say, if your child, if your best friend, if your spouse made a mistake, would you go and berate them and say, I can't believe you were so dumb. I can't believe you did that, you know, whatever it may be. And if you say, well, of course not, I would try to encourage them and let's talk about what happened. How can we correct it together? How can we move forward? So why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we berate and belittle ourselves? Because those thoughts and those words that we think and say become things. And then it breaks us down and it doesn't show ourselves that self-love that we need. So let those things go, take those obstacles, make those detours, use them all as stepping stones to move forward.
Very true.
Yeah. So Dee, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about starting over for a new beginning. But before we go, yes. But before we go, tell listeners how they can learn more about you and how they can reach you if they have any questions.
If you have any questions, you may feel free to reach me by email. And my email address is deeburrell123@gmail.com. I've also started a website, and that is Dee Burrell Consulting. And you can send a text message to me at 215-913-7684. And by giving you this information, it'll all make sense when we go to the segment starting over a new beginning.
That's right. And that is coming up next. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, other episodes, or sign up for helpful tips and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Dee Burrell. Dee, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you, Erica. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you are most welcome. So during the last two segments, we've discussed overcoming obstacles and letting go. And those are very important first parts of getting to where we want to get, right? And so during this segment, we want to get into starting over for a new beginning. So I'm going to let you just jump right in, Dee. Why does it all matter, right? Why does starting over and having that new beginning matter?
Starting over and having a new beginning is one of the best feelings that we can have within ourselves, within our mind, our body, and soul. When we learn to let go, and then we also learn to overcome our obstacles, now we're in the position of starting over, a new beginning. Never be afraid to start over. When you are comfortable with just being where you are, unhappy, sad, miserable, it's shortening your life. But when you learn to start over, it's a great feeling and it's not a failure. To give you an example, I have been working on a consulting business, I would say 15 years or so, but I have always still enjoyed working in offices. I've spent 10 years working in Princeton, New Jersey in private schools. And then I moved to Waldorf, Maryland to be closer with my daughter and granddaughter. And I spent 10 years working for a retired federal judge. And then later in other, small jobs. But this has been something that I've been working on for a long time. Now that I am starting over with a new beginning, I pretty much have my foundation already laid out because I've been working on this, I'm going to say for fun, maybe for years. I've written 2 books. These are things that I would have never have done. But when you learn to love you, and that may be another segment, because we have to learn to love ourselves first. Let go of anything, anybody, any place that is not being positive or beneficial for you. And when you go through that process, then you're ready to start over. I've had the pleasure as a breast cancer survivor to travel to places such as Singapore, Switzerland. These are places that I will be honest with you, I never thought I'd ever have the opportunity to go to see these places. But it took breast cancer to give me this opportunity to travel the world, meet so many people, to encourage and inspire others. And so for me, that is a part of starting over. I've always loved to travel, but that travel was for fun. My starting over now, my traveling is to travel to share my story, to encourage others, to motivate, to inspire. So starting over is good for you, your mind, your body, your soul, and it's the beginning of a whole new life for you.
And I love how you said that, because it's true, is that would you have wanted to have breast cancer? Of course not. But there are good things that come out of it, right? Just like if somebody, had to start over because they lost their house in a fire, of course you wouldn't want to have the fire, but that might be a time to start over for something new, for something fresh. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't bad things when these obstacles come in our way. However,
Right.
we can make the most of them. And it's beneficial because you're still traveling. You still get to have an opportunity to have fun and enjoy yourself, but you're also doing it for the betterment of others, which
Yes.
also gives us a satisfying feeling, right? It gives us that ability to help somebody else.
Mhm.
And I think, as you said, it's finding that passion and then living it on purpose, right? So not just having a passion and purpose, but really intentionally living through that when we can start over and have that new beginning. So it matters for so many reasons. And I think it also matters on why are you starting over? So how do you want to feel in the future? So tell listeners about that. Like how do they know when they should, not just something's thrown at you, but if they wanted to start over, what would be a first step that they should do, should they think about?
The first step is to take some time, as I said earlier, to look in the mirror and really ask yourself, is this how I want to live? You know, if it's finances, we all go through some financial problems. For me, I'm actually learning how to downsize. Things that I thought that I needed for all my life, uh, that really, it wasn't bringing me joy. It was simply, I've had it. I'll give you a great example. The first thing I did when I rang the bell for my chemotherapy, and my oncologist said, go out, this is a whole new life for you, do something you've never done. I worked in Princeton. I drove to the Princeton Mercedes-Benz dealer. And I make a joke with this. I had $6 in my purse. And I often say I didn't have enough to buy a full hoagie, the full-size hoagie at Wawa. But here I am in the most expensive Mercedes-Benz dealer. I walk in the showroom with a suit and a bald head. I knew I wasn't going to get a car, but I wanted to do something totally different. I walk in. I said to the guy, I'd love to have this car on the showroom. And I'm saying in the back of my mind, why am I wasting this man's time? I got $6 in my purse. Make a long story short, he allowed me to talk and, we went back to the office. But long story short, I ended up with that Mercedes-Benz. Wasn't planning to get it, but it was because this gentleman was a cancer survivor. And he was in awe with my courage and my strength, walking in a place bald-headed with a suit and saying, this is what I want. So I've been a proud Mercedes-Benz owner for many, many years. But now, does that car mean that this is who I am? No, because now I'd rather spend that money and travel the world and do things with my daughter and my granddaughter. So I'm really considering downsizing. That for some people would be like, oh, I'm scared to do that. But at this point, because I've been out of work for quite some time, I've learned what is important to me and what is not important to me. And if I had not made these changes, letting go, overcoming my obstacles, and starting over, there is no way I would be on this radio show with you today feeling powerful. And it all starts with letting go.
And that is, I love that story. First of all, that is a great story. And it goes to show you that it's never too late to start over. And what I mean by that is, so yes, you went to school to be a doctor, let's say. So we're talking many years of school, and you worked in the practice, and maybe it's been 20 years and you decided, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I want to try something new. That doesn't mean you have to stick with being a doctor, right?
Right.
What can you use those skills that you acquired through your education and schooling and residency and practicing of medicine, that you can use some of those to start over? And it doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. If you want to start over because you're not enjoying life, It doesn't bring you what fulfills you, because maybe what fulfilled you in your 20s or 30s
Right.
probably isn't going to fulfill you anymore in your 60s. So what do you want from your life? And I think that's a great example of looking that you don't have to be stuck or you don't have to be unhappy. Let go and don't worry about what other people think.
Absolutely. That's the most
Right.
important part. Not worrying about what other people will say, because many people will say, oh, well, she failed. Failure is not an option. I would fail if I continue to struggle and not be able to enjoy life the way that I used to. That to me would be a failure.
And I think that's a great place to end this segment. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and we're going to be discussing believing in yourself. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Dee Burrell. Dee, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell listeners how they can learn more about you and ask any questions.
Feel free to reach me on my mobile. You can always send me a message at 215-913-7684. I am beginning progress in a website, Dee Burrell Consulting. You may feel free to check that out. And also my personal email is Dee Burrell. That's DeeBurrell 123@gmail.com.
Wonderful. So during today's episode, we've talked about letting go, overcoming obstacles, starting over, and now let's get into believing and loving ourselves. So I think we all know it is important to believe in ourselves, but why? Why is it important and how do we do it?
If we don't believe in ourselves, how do we expect anyone else to believe in us?
Yes.
We have gone through letting go, overcoming obstacles, starting over, and now it's all about believing in yourself. And by believing in yourself, you have had to go through, I'm going to use me, I've had to go through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of letting go and starting over in obstacles. And that's okay, because through all of that, I have learned to believe in me. And once you believe in yourself, there's no stopping you. You don't worry about what others say. You go out, there's, like, as they say, that pep in your step. You have a smile. And just because, I'm smiling and I'm happy, I'm walking around happy, it doesn't mean that, every day is a good day. Well, it's a good day because we're here. But there are always going to be obstacles. But the most important thing is to believe in you.
And I think that is so important because that gets to our self-love, right? Down right to the very core of us. And it's just like we have to love ourselves. We have to believe in ourselves first, because you did say it shows other people how to love and believe in you. And if you're not confident, right? If you don't have that self-esteem, there are ways to do it, right? There's ways to build those, making sure that we have the right people around us, because who we surround ourselves with, what we ingest, not only physically, meaning food, water, all that, but also what are we watching? What are we reading? Are we around and surrounding all of that with positive energy, with making sure we're sitting with the right people at the table? And if we're not, move to a table, sit by yourself until you find that, right? Till you find your tribe. And that is so important, because if you aren't around the right people, it's hard to believe in yourself and to love yourself if others are mocking what you're doing, putting down what you're doing, or saying you can't do that. Yes, you have to believe you can no matter what anybody else says. But when you constantly hear that, that's where we have to let go of those people, let go of those toxic relationships, and find a new set of mentors, friends, colleagues that can support us and move us forward. And it makes it a little easier to start believing in yourself and loving yourself all the more. And I think that is, sometimes you forget that, right? When you don't always have that. So do we have to change our mindset? So, does believing in yourself mean that you have to change your mindset as well?
Absolutely. You do have to change your mindset. Because if you have had a mindset that, oh, I'm not good enough, or this is not going to work, you're going to keep that mindset with you all the time. But when you go through all of the segments that we have talked about today on our radio show, and you learn to believe in yourself, you will find that probably you will notice later that your whole mindset has changed. I don't think it's going to be a thing that you initially change in your mindset, like, okay, today I'm changing my mindset. It's not going to work that way. It's going to go through each one of these phases that we have shared in our show today, and then learning to believe in yourself. I often tell women this, and I've had a lot of women, or a few women, to call me and say, Dee, I would have never done this. I often ask an audience, how many women sit back or do not attend an event or do not go to breakfast or lunch or dinner because they don't have anyone to go with them? And a lot of times there's a lot of hands like, oh no, I could never go out. So my challenge is, I challenge ladies with, I love going out alone. No matter where I go, I'm going to meet people. So my first challenge, I tell ladies, pick a place, a restaurant that you like, and sit at the bar. Get away from that, a bar is a pickup. No, that stigma, we've got to get away from that. And it's probably easier to start with breakfast. Go to a diner, restaurant, sit at the little bar area. And get comfortable with being alone. Because wherever you go and you're sitting alone, you're always going to talk with someone. I choose the bar because at least I'm going to talk to the bartender or the other patrons that's sitting next to me. And then the next thing I know, I've met friends for a lifetime. So it's little things of changing our mindset and doing things that we haven't done before that you will find will make a huge
difference. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that's a perfect way to end the show, is challenge yourselves. Because wherever you go, first of all, you're going someplace you want to go because you chose it. And second, if it's something you're interested in, you have at least one thing in common with the other folks there, because they went to a painting, a wine and paint, or this or that.
Yes.
And go out there and challenge yourselves, get out of your comfort zone and really create that growth mindset and let go, overcome those obstacles and start anew. Thank you, Dee, for being on our show today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing day. And I look forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you have missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.